Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Before we begin, I want you to take a long, slow breath in and let it out even more slowly. Feel the mattress beneath you, supporting you completely. Let go of the tension in your jaw, your neck, and your hands. Tonight, we are leaving the frantic pace of the surface behind. We are embarking on a journey into the quiet blue, a descent into the heart of the world's oceans, where time moves differently and the light fades into a soft, velvet embrace. As you prepare for sleep, if you find these peaceful explorations of our natural world helpful, please consider gently clicking the like button and subscribing to our channel. It's a quiet, wonderful way to support this space and ensure we can keep traveling to these serene corners of the universe together night after night as you drift into a deep and restorative rest. The ocean is a place of infinite scale. When we look at a map, we see the continents, the familiar shapes of our homes and cities, but the reality of our planet is far more fluid. The ocean covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface. It is the dominant feature of our world, a single, massive breathing entity that regulates the air we breathe and the climate that sustains us. It is a vast rolling desert of blue, holding secrets that have been tucked away for millions of years, far beneath the reach of the wind and the rain. There is a strange and beautiful irony in our curiosity as humans. We have spent centuries looking at the stars, charting the craters of the moon and the dusty plains of Mars. We have high-resolution maps of celestial bodies millions of miles away in the cold vacuum of space. And yet, we have mapped more of the moon's surface than we have the deep sea floor of our own home. The abyss remains a frontier, a place of mystery that lies just a few miles beneath the waves. It is a realm that belongs more to the stars than to the land, governed by its own rules, its own physics, and its own ancient rhythms. Much of what lies at the very bottom is still a blank canvas, waiting for us to discover its quiet truths. Right now, imagine yourself floating effortlessly on the very surface of this great blue expanse. The water here is clear and bright, a vibrant turquoise that sparkles under the afternoon sun. You can feel the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of the swells like the slow breathing of the earth itself. The air is salty and fresh, and the sun feels warm on your skin. But as we look down, we see the colors begin to shift. The bright turquoise gives way to a deeper, richer cobalt. We are ready to begin our journey downward. We are going to leave the splashing waves and the warm breeze behind, slipping beneath the surface into a world of increasing stillness. Let yourself sink, slowly and safely, as we prepare to enter the first layer of the deep, leaving the world of the air behind. As you slip just below the surface, the transition is immediate and profound. The chaotic splashing of the waves above is replaced by a deep, resonant silence, broken only by the soft, rhythmic hum of the water moving against itself. You are now entering the epipelagic zone, often called the sunlight zone. It is the thin, shimmering skin of the ocean, a world of clarity and movement where the sun's rays still hold their warmth and power. Looking up, you can see the underside of the surface, a shifting ceiling of liquid silver where the light breaks into dancing patterns like shattered diamonds scattering across a floor of turquoise silk. In this shallowest layer, the ocean is a garden of light, This is the only part of the sea where the sun's energy is strong enough to allow for photosynthesis, the magical process that turns light into life. Even though the ocean is miles deep in many places, the sunlight only truly penetrates effectively to about 200 meters, or roughly 650 feet. It is a staggering thought that such a massive volume of water is defined by such a relatively thin layer of light. Beyond this 200-meter mark, the sun's reach begins to fail, and the vibrant colors of the world above start to bleed away into the shadows. Because of this concentration of energy, the sunlight zone is the most crowded and active neighborhood in the world. It is a remarkable fact that this top layer, which represents only a small fraction of the ocean's total depth, is where 90% of all marine life resides. It is the home of the Great Barrier Reef, the vast schools of tuna and sardines, and the majestic whales that travel thousands of miles through these sun-drenched corridors. It is a place of immense productivity, where billions of tiny organisms called phytoplankton drift in the currents, breathing out the very oxygen that we breathe on land. Almost every creature we are familiar with, from the playful dolphin to the soaring sea turtle, finds its sanctuary here in this narrow band of illuminated water. As we drift deeper, the bright sparkling greens and teals begin to shift into a deeper, more solid cobalt. The water feels slightly heavier now, pressing gently against you like a soft, weighted blanket. The frantic energy of the surface is fading, replaced by a sense of vast open space. Take a slow, steady breath now. Inhale the coolness, and as you exhale, feel your body becoming even more relaxed, even more attuned to the quiet descent. The light is losing its golden edge, turning into a dusty, ethereal sapphire that seems to glow from within the water itself. We are leaving the world of the sun behind. The surface is now a distant, glowing memory, a shimmering roof that is slowly receding into the distance. The bustling life of the upper reaches is thinning out, and the silence is becoming more absolute. We are approaching a boundary, an invisible line where the atmosphere of the ocean changes fundamentally. You might notice that the gentle warmth of the surface water is starting to pull away, replaced by a crisp, refreshing coolness that signals our transition into the layers below. The journey is just beginning, and the deep is waiting to welcome us into its colder, quieter embrace. As we continue our slow, rhythmic descent, drifting further from the sun-drenched surface, the water around you begins to change in a way that you can feel deep in your bones. We are entering a space where the warmth of the world above finally lets go. This transition is a remarkable phenomenon known as the thermocline. Imagine it as an invisible liquid curtain that separates the energetic surface from the eternal stillness of the deep. In this layer, which can be hundreds of feet thick, the water temperature doesn't just cool down, it drops rapidly, plunging from the balmy temperatures of the tropics or the mild warmth of the temperate zones into a deep, bracing chill. It is a sudden shift, a boundary where the sun's ability to heat the water simply reaches its limit. The thermocline acts as a thermal barrier, a lid that keeps the layers of the ocean from mixing too easily. Above us, the waves and the wind keep the water moving and warm. But down here, the water is becoming still. You might feel a gentle shiver of relaxation as the coolness settles over you. It is a clean, crisp sensation, like the feeling of a fresh, cool pillow on a summer night. This drop in temperature is one of the most significant changes a traveler of the deep will encounter, marking the true end of the surface world and the beginning of the abyss. Once we pass through this invisible thermal curtain and move into the layers beneath, we find ourselves in a place of incredible, unchanging stability. It is a fascinating fact that below the thermocline, the vast majority of the deep ocean stays at a constant near-freezing temperature. Regardless of whether it is a scorching summer day at the surface or a freezing winter night, the water here remains between 0 and 3 degrees Celsius. Just a few degrees above freezing, this deep water has no seasons. It does not know the passage of days or the changing of the weather. It is a world of perfect frozen time, where the temperature has remained the same for thousands of years. This coldness isn't sharp or biting. Instead, it is a steady, calming presence that wraps around everything like a protective cocoon. As the temperature drops, you might notice that the water also feels subtly different in its weight. Cold water is denser and heavier than warm water, and as we sink deeper, this density begins to exert a soft, comforting pressure. It is not a crushing weight, but rather a sense of being held firmly by the ocean itself. The water is becoming more viscous, more substantial, as if the very liquid is becoming a thick velvet blanket that cradles you in your descent. Every movement feels slower now, every breath more deliberate. The frantic pace of the world above is 1,000,000 miles away. Take another slow, deep breath, feeling the coolness of the air, as if it were the cool, deep water surrounding you. There is a profound peace in this stability. In a world that is always changing, the deep ocean offers the comfort of something that never does. We are now floating through a realm of quiet, cold majesty, where the only movement is the slow, silent drift of the current. The light is still fading, the deep sapphire turning into a bruised, midnight purple. We are moving toward the threshold of the unknown, leaving the last vestiges of the familiar behind as we prepare to enter the first layer of true mystery. The water is cold, the pressure is steady, and the silence is a gift. We are ready to see what hides in the shadows. As we continue our descent, we cross a threshold that marks the end of the sun's dominion and the beginning of a realm known as the Mesopelagic Zone. This area, often poetically called the Twilight Zone, begins at a depth of roughly 200 meters and stretches down until we reach a full kilometer, 1,000 meters below the surface. At this depth, the ocean changes its character entirely. The vibrant, dancing rays of the sun are gone, replaced by a dim, ethereal glow that feels like the very edge of a dream. If you were to look up from here, you wouldn't see the sun as a bright disk, but rather as a faint, shimmering memory of light. It is here that we witness a beautiful scientific phenomenon, the filtering of color. As sunlight enters the water, the longer wavelengths of light, the warm reds, the vibrant oranges, and the soft yellows, are absorbed almost immediately by the water molecules. They simply don't have the energy to penetrate this far down. By the time we reach the twilight zone, only the shortest, most energetic wavelengths remain. It is a fascinating fact that blue light travels the furthest through the water column, penetrating deeper than any other color. This creates the twilight zone's signature appearance. a ghostly monochromatic world washed in a deep spectral blue. Everything here is cast in this indigo shadow, making the creatures and the vast open spaces look like something out of an ancient myth. It is a hushed indigo cathedral where the water itself seems to glow with a faint inner radiance, even though the sun is barely a whisper. This blue hue is the last vestige of the world we know, a final flickering candle before the absolute darkness of the deep. In this middle layer, the ocean feels vast and heavy, yet strangely weightless. We are suspended in a space that is neither fully light nor fully dark. It is the first layer of true mystery, a place where the rules of the surface no longer apply. The animals that live here have evolved to exist in this permanent dusk, their bodies often transparent or silvered to blend into the dim blue background. As we drift through this 800-meter thick band of water, let yourself sink into the stillness. There is no wind here, no waves, and no sound of the world above. There is only the slow, rhythmic pulse of the current and the soft blue silence. We are now exploring the great transition. Behind us is the warmth and the light. Ahead of us lies the unknown. The Twilight Zone is a place of shadows and secrets, a hidden gallery where nature experiments with form and function in ways we are only just beginning to understand. As your eyes adjust to this ghostly blue world, you might begin to notice that the darkness isn't quite as empty as it first appeared. In the distance, beyond the veil of blue, something small and bright begins to flicker. As we watch that tiny flicker in the distance, we realize we are witnessing one of the most enchanting sights in the natural world, the phenomenon of bioluminescence. In this world, where the sun's reach is fading, life has found a way to create its own radiance. It is a soft, cold light, born not from heat or fire, but from the very essence of the creatures themselves. You might imagine the deep ocean as a place of total, featureless black, but in reality, it is often a theater of dancing sparks and glowing trails. It is a silent, beautiful conversation held in the dark. It is a remarkable fact that about 80% of all deep-sea creatures produce their own light. In this vast, shadowy realm, bioluminescence is not a rare gift or a strange anomaly. It is the standard way of life. It is the primary language of the deep. For the animals living here, light is a tool for communication, a lure for a meal, and a clever shield against those who might be hunting them. Imagine floating in a vast, dark room where nearly everyone you meet carries a tiny, soft lantern, casting a gentle glow on the velvet curtains of the water. This is the reality of the mesopelagic zone. It is a world where you don't just see the light, you are the light. This living glow is the result of a beautiful and precise chemical reaction. Inside the specialized cells of these creatures, a molecule called luciferin reacts with oxygen to create a photon of light. This process is often assisted by an enzyme known as luciferase, which acts as a gentle catalyst to spark the glow. Unlike the light bulbs in our homes, which waste a great deal of energy as heat, bioluminescence is what scientists call cold light. It is incredibly efficient, producing almost no heat at all. It is a perfect, quiet adaptation for an environment where every bit of energy is precious and must be husbanded with care. As you drift further into the blue, you see these sparks more clearly now. Some are steady and constant, like distant stars in a clear winter night sky. Others are rhythmic, pulsing slowly and steadily, like a calm heartbeat. You might see a jellied creature trail a long, glowing ribbon behind it, like a silk scarf caught in a breeze, or perhaps you see a tiny crustacean release a sudden brilliant cloud of luminous ink to startle a neighbor before vanishing back into the shadows. It is an underwater fireworks display, occurring in slow motion, designed not to overwhelm the senses, but to whisper secrets in the dark. Take a slow, deep breath and let your mind drift among these tiny, dancing lights. They are gentle and unhurried, bobbing in the current like fireflies in a summer meadow. There is no harshness to this glow. It is as soft as the moonlight reflecting off a calm, still lake. Watching these first sparks in the dimness, you feel a profound sense of peace. The darkness isn't empty or lonely. It is inhabited by millions of tiny living lanterns, each one a small miracle of chemistry and survival. These lights are not just sitting still, however. If you watch closely, you might notice a subtle change in the pressure of the water. The sparks aren't just flickering in place, they are beginning to shift and move with a shared purpose. A great silent momentum is building all around us, as if the very ocean itself is preparing for a journey. The tiny glowing guides of the midwater are starting to rise, tilting their bodies toward the surface, signaling the beginning of a grand nightly ritual that has taken place for millions of years. Imagine trillions of tiny heartbeats pulsing in unison as they begin their long, slow ascent through the water column. This is the DL vertical migration, a phenomenon so vast and so rhythmic that it defines the very life cycle of the deep. While we often think of the great migrations of the Serengeti or the seasonal flight of birds across continents, this journey, happening every single night in the velvet blue of our oceans, is actually the largest migration of biomass on Earth every night. As the world above settles into sleep, the world below begins to wake and move in a synchronized upward drift. As you float here in the cooling water, you can almost feel the subtle shift in the current as this massive wave of life passes by. It is not a frantic scramble, but a graceful, slow-motion ballet. These creatures have spent their daylight hours in the safety of the dim twilight zone, hidden from the keen eyes of predators that hunt by the sun's light. But as the surface waters turn dark and cool, the call of nourishment becomes a gentle, irresistible tug. They rise hundreds of meters, swimming toward the surface to feast on the nutrient-rich plankton that lives in the upper layers. They move under the protective cover of the night, using the shadows as a heavy, dark blanket. This nightly commute allows them to find the energy they need while remaining nearly invisible to those who might wish to find them. It is a beautiful, efficient strategy for survival, a way to bridge the gap between the sun-drenched riches of the surface and the quiet safety of the deep. For millions of years, this has been the heartbeat of the ocean, a great rising breath at dusk and a long, settling exhale at dawn. Visualizing this movement is like watching a slow, luminous tide. In the mind's eye, it looks like a galaxy of stars slowly rising through a liquid sky. There is a profound sense of peace in this repetition, a comfort in knowing that this massive, silent journey happens every day, as reliable as the turning of the earth itself. The ocean is not a static place. It is a living, breathing entity. And right now, we are drifting in the middle of its most significant pulse. As these millions of travelers pass us by, we begin to notice the individual faces in the crowd. Among the drifting jellies and tiny crustaceans, there is one group of travelers that stands out. They move with a quiet confidence, their small bodies flickering with the specialized light that helps them disappear into the very shadows they inhabit. These are the tiny glowing guides of the midwater, preparing to lead us even deeper into the mysteries of the blue. Among the most numerous of these travelers are the lanternfish, small and silver, carrying their own constellations with them as they navigate the vast dark space. As you watch these little travelers move upward, you might notice how they seem to shimmer like a scattering of silver coins tossed into a dark well. These are the lanternfish, and while they may appear small and delicate, hardly longer than a finger, they are among the most important residents of this vast blue world. It is a humbling thought to realize that these tiny creatures, so often overlooked, are the silent pulse of the deep. In the grand tapestry of the ocean, they are one of the most abundant vertebrates on the entire planet. Scientists estimate that lanternfish make up a staggering portion of the ocean's total biomass. In many parts of the deep sea, they represent as much as 65% of the total weight of all deep sea fish. Imagine that for a moment. Hundreds of trillions of tiny glowing lumps filling the dark spaces between the continents. They are a hidden empire of light, a massive living layer that moves in unison across the globe every single day. As we drift among them, we are surrounded by a population so vast it is almost impossible to comprehend. Yet each one moves with a quiet individual grace. If you look closely at their small silver bodies, you will see rows of tiny, jewel-like organs along their bellies and sides. These are photophores, their own personal lanterns. They do not glow with a harsh or jarring light, but with a soft, ethereal luminescence that mimics the faint, filtered rays of the moon and stars reaching down from the surface. This serves a brilliant and beautiful purpose known as counter-illumination. Even here, in the dimness of the twilight zone, a predator swimming below a lanternfish could look up and see its dark silhouette against the pale descending light of the sky. To protect themselves, the lanternfish use their glowing bellies to match the color and intensity of the light from above. By doing so, they effectively erase their own shadows. They become invisible, blending perfectly into the liquid sky above them. It is as if they are wearing a cloak made of starlight, a gentle deception that allows them to navigate the dangerous waters in peace. There is something deeply comforting about this strategy, the idea of using light not just to see but to vanish, to find safety by becoming one with the environment. As they pulse with this soft rhythmic glow, the lanternfish remind us of the incredible ingenuity of life. They don't fight the darkness, they weave themselves into it. We watch them continue their journey upward, thousands upon thousands of tiny stars rising through the deep. They are the guides of the midwater, a constant presence in the shifting currents. But as we continue to sink deeper, leaving the great migration behind us, the shapes around us begin to change. The lanternfish are built for travel, for the long nightly commute to the surface, but other creatures have evolved for a life of absolute stillness. In the shadows just beyond the lanternfish's glow, we begin to see the outlines of fish, with even stranger adaptations, creatures that have traded the ability to migrate for the ability to see what no one else can. The water feels a little heavier now, the silence a little deeper, as we prepare to meet the unique shapes that call these deepening shadows home. As the lanternfish continue their long, rhythmic ascent toward the distant starlight, we let ourselves sink a little further into the cool, dark embrace of the twilight zone. The water here feels thicker, a heavy and velvety blue that seems to hold us in a state of perfect weightlessness. In this space, where the light is so faint it feels more like a memory than a reality, we encounter a creature that looks as though it were fashioned from hammered silver. This is the hatchet fish. It is a small, delicate being, often no larger than a few inches in length, but its form is one of the most specialized and intriguing in all the world's oceans. As we drift alongside it, we can see how its body catches the minimal light, shimmering softly like a coin lost in a deep well. If you look closely at the hatchet fish, the first thing you might notice are its eyes. They are not like the round, wandering eyes of the fish we know from the sunlit shallows. Instead, the hatchet fish possesses tubular eyes that are fixed permanently in an upward gaze. They are like two tiny golden telescopes, forever searching the dim waters far above. There is a quiet, steady patience in this gaze. It isn't looking for the sun itself, but for the faint, dark silhouettes of tiny prey passing through the thin veil of light that still manages to reach this depth. By looking strictly upward, the hatchet fish can see the shapes of other creatures standing out against the pale, descending glow of the surface. It is a clever and quiet way to hunt, a life spent watching the shadows of a world it will never truly visit. The rest of its body is just as remarkable, shaped by the immense pressure and the need to remain hidden. The hatchet fish is named for its distinct profile. It is deep-bellied and tapers sharply toward the tail, resembling the head of a silver hatchet. But its most striking feature is how incredibly thin it is. If you were to see a hatchet fish from the side, it appears as a broad, shimmering disc. But if it were to turn and face you, it would almost entirely disappear. Its body is so compressed that it is nearly paper thin. This is a masterful form of camouflage. By being so narrow, it presents the smallest possible silhouette to any predator looking at it from the side. It becomes a sliver of nothingness, a ghost in the water that can vanish with a simple turn of its body. In the stillness of this deepening layer, we can watch the hatchet fish hang almost motionless in the current. It does not need to swim with urgency or fight the water. It simply exists in a state of perfect, quiet balance, its silver scales reflecting the blue-black void, its upward-pointing eyes keeping a gentle watch over the world above. There is no rush here, no hurried movements to break the silence. Every curve and every feature of the hatchetfish has been shaped by millions of years of stillness, resulting in a creature that is as efficient as it is beautiful. As we observe these unique and strange shapes, we begin to realize that the rules of the surface world have completely dissolved. Down here, survival is not about speed or strength, but about the elegance of design and the wisdom of remaining unseen. The hatchetfish is a testament to the ocean's ability to create life that fits perfectly into the quietest, darkest corners of the earth. We take a slow, deep breath, feeling the weight of the water around us like a soft, heavy blanket. The hatchetfish remains behind us now, its silver body fading back into the deepening blue. The light is growing even thinner now, the last traces of the sun's reach beginning to fail entirely. We are moving toward a place where the very concept of day and night finally disappears into a single eternal peace. The shadows are lengthening, stretching out into a profound, unbroken dark as we prepare to leave the twilight behind and enter the true, silent heart of the deep. We are drifting lower now, leaving the indigo hues of the twilight behind. The water around us is becoming a deep, velvety black, as if a soft curtain is being drawn across the world above. As we cross the threshold of 1,000 meters beneath the surface, we officially enter the bathypelagic zone, a place more commonly known as the midnight zone. It is here that the sun's long reach finally, completely fails. At this depth, there is no more blue, no more gray, no more hints of the sky. It is a realm of eternal night, a vast and silent expanse that has never known the touch of a single photon from the sun. In the world we know, light is something that comes from the heavens, but here, that logic is turned upside down. In the midnight zone, the only light that exists is produced by the life that dwells within it. It is a world illuminated by living stars. You might see a sudden soft pulse of emerald green in the distance, or a trail of tiny glowing sparks that look like embers drifting in a slow-motion wind. This bioluminescence is the only map through the darkness, a language of light spoken by creatures that have never seen the day. It creates a landscape that feels less like an ocean and more like a liquid galaxy, where every flick of a fin can ignite a constellation of soft, cold fire. Take a moment to simply exist in this space. It is easy to think of the dark as something heavy or unknown, but here the darkness is a sanctuary. It is a quiet, cooling embrace that wraps around everything in a state of perfect, undisturbed peace. There is no wind here, no storms, and no seasons. The passage of time feels different when there is no sun to mark the hours. It is a place of total stillness where you can let go of the busyness of the surface and simply drift. Take a slow, steady breath, feeling the cool, calm air in your lungs, and imagine the weightless freedom of floating in this ink-black cradle. The darkness is safe, and it is very, very quiet. As we leave the last traces of the sun far above us, we are moving deeper into the true heart of the planet. The surface world, with its bright lights and constant noise, feels like a distant memory now. We are becoming part of the deep, part of the ancient rhythm of the water. The deeper we go, the more the environment changes, not just in its color, but in its very nature. We are starting to feel a change in the water itself, a subtle, growing density that begins to press in from all sides like a heavy, comforting blanket being tucked in around us. We are descending into the layers where the sheer weight of the ocean becomes the defining rule of existence, moving toward a place where every creature is a masterpiece of engineering built to thrive under a pressure that would be unimaginable anywhere else. As we continue our slow, steady descent into the heart of the midnight zone, we begin to notice a subtle shift in the physical sensation of the water. It is no longer just a fluid we are moving through. It becomes a tangible presence, a soft but firm weight that seems to cradle everything within it. This is the beginning of our understanding of the physics of the deep, a world governed by the immense power of pressure. In our lives on the surface, we rarely think about the weight of the atmosphere, yet it presses down on us constantly. Here, that weight is multiplied by the vastness of the ocean. By the time we reach a depth of 1,000 meters, the pressure of the water is about 100 times greater than what you would experience at sea level. It is a staggering thought, yet in this quiet space, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Instead, imagine it as a form of ultimate stability. At the surface, things are often fragile, easily moved by the wind or the waves. But down here, the pressure creates a world of profound consistency. To the creatures that live here, this weight isn't a burden. It is the very foundation of their existence. They have evolved in harmony with it over millions of years, finding ways to exist where the laws of physics seem to operate differently. One of the most elegant ways they have adapted is through the very composition of their bodies. Most animals we are familiar with, including ourselves, rely on air-filled spaces to function. We have lungs, and many fish in the sunlit shallows have swim bladders, which are small balloons of gas that help them stay buoyant. However, under the weight of 1,000 meters of water, air is a liability. It would be compressed and squeezed. To navigate this, many deep-sea creatures have evolved to lack air-filled cavities entirely. Their bodies are composed primarily of water and soft, incompressible tissues. Because water cannot be easily compressed, the pressure inside their bodies perfectly matches the pressure outside. They are, in a very literal sense, one with the ocean. This biological masterpiece allows them to glide through the darkness without being crushed, moving with a fluid, effortless grace. There is no tension in their frames, no struggle against the environment. They exist in a state of perfect equilibrium with the heavy water around them. As you listen to the sound of my voice, try to imagine your own body finding that same sense of equilibrium. Imagine the worries and tensions of the day being slowly pressed away by a gentle, uniform weight. It is like being tucked in under a heavy velvet blanket, the kind of weight that makes you feel secure, grounded, and completely safe. The pressure of the deep ocean is not a force of destruction, but a force of stillness. It holds the water steady, keeping the environment quiet and unchanging. In this heavy, silent embrace, there is no room for the frantic energy of the world above. There is only the slow, rhythmic pulse of the water and the quiet, steady heartbeat of the life that dwells here. We are drifting deeper now, moving into the thickest part of this comforting blanket, where the darkness is absolute and the pressure is a constant, soothing hum. As we settle into this deep stability, we begin to encounter the true masters of this realm. Creatures who have turned the strange requirements of the abyss into a way of life that is as fascinating as it is peaceful. We are moving toward a meeting with a resident of the dark that is perhaps the most iconic of all, a creature of patience and soft glowing light. Out of the velvet dark, a single tiny spark of light begins to dance. It is soft and steady, a pale blue-green beacon that seems to hover in the water like a lonely star. This is the light of the anglerfish, perhaps the most famous resident of the midnight zone. While popular culture often paints her as a creature of the shadows, here in the quiet of the deep, she is a master of patience and a beacon of life. This light, which hangs from a slender filament above her head, is a biological masterpiece known as the Esca. But the light does not come from the fish herself. Instead, it is the result of a beautiful and ancient partnership. Inside that small glowing bulb lie millions of bioluminescent bacteria. They have found a safe, protected home within the anglerfish, and in return for the nutrients she provides, they provide her with the light she needs to navigate and survive in the dark. It is a quiet, symbiotic agreement that has lasted for millions of years, a tiny living lantern fueled by the steady rhythm of a shared existence. As we watch this soft glow, we can appreciate the incredible stillness of the anglerfish. She does not waste energy swimming through the vast emptiness. Instead, she drifts, suspended in the heavy water, waiting with a calm and singular focus. In a world where food is scarce, she has learned the art of the long wait. She is a creature of deep meditation. Her life measured not in minutes or hours, but in the slow arrival of whatever the currents might bring. There is no hurry here, no rush to be anywhere else. There is only the glow and the waiting. But there is an even more profound connection hidden in the darkness of her world. Because the ocean is so vast and the inhabitants so few, finding another of one's kind is a rare and precious event. To solve this, the anglerfish has developed one of the most unique bonds in the natural world. The male anglerfish is much smaller than the female, often only a fraction of her size. He is not a hunter, but a seeker, equipped with highly sensitive organs to detect the scent and light of a female. When he finally finds her, he does not simply visit and leave. He attaches himself to her, and over time, their bodies begin to fuse together. Their skin joins, and their circulatory systems connect until they are sharing the same lifeblood. He becomes a permanent part of her, and she becomes his entire world. In this absolute isolation, they are never truly alone. It is a bond of total commitment, a fusion of two lives into one, ensuring that even in the widest, darkest reaches of the planet, life can find its way and continue its story. Think of that deep sense of connection as you drift further into your own quiet space. Just as the anglerfish finds her partner and becomes one with her environment, you are becoming one with the stillness of your room. There is no need to seek anything out. Everything you need is right here in the quiet. The bonds we share, the partnerships that sustain us, and the quiet patience we hold within ourselves are all reflected in the life of the deep. We leave the glowing lantern of the anglerfish behind now, letting her light fade into a soft memory as we continue our descent. Nearby, another creature of the dark is waiting, one that has taken the concept of patience and expanded it to an even more remarkable degree, with a form that seems to defy the very shapes of the world we know. As the light of the anglerfish recedes, we find ourselves drifting deeper into the velvety blackness of the midnight zone. Here, the water feels even more still, a vast and silent gallery of evolution's most curious masterpieces. Emerging from the shadows is a silhouette so slender it looks like a single dark thread suspended in the water. This is the gulper eel, a creature that seems to belong more to the world of dreams than to the earth we know. It moves with a slow, serpentine grace, its long whip-like body undulating with a rhythm that is almost hypnotic. The most striking feature of the gulper eel is its incredible, oversized jaw. While its body is thin and delicate, its mouth is cavernous, far larger than its own head. In the scientific community, it is often called the pelican eel because of this remarkable anatomy. Its jaw is loosely hinged, capable of unfolding and expanding to an astonishing degree. This isn't a sign of aggression, but rather a beautiful adaptation to the scarcity of the deep. In a place where a meal might only come along once every few weeks, the gulper eel must be prepared for anything. Its mouth can stretch to swallow prey that is significantly larger than itself. Its stomach expanding like a soft balloon to accommodate the nourishment. It is a master of the all-or-nothing lifestyle, a living testament to the efficiency required to survive in the great empty. Imagine the patience of this creature as it hangs vertically in the water column, nearly invisible against the dark. It does not waste energy in a frantic search for food. Instead, it relies on a clever piece of biological artistry located at the very tip of its long, tapering tail. There, a small organ glows with a soft, steady bioluminescence, often appearing as a faint pink or red spark in the gloom. The eel holds its tail near its mouth, using the tiny light as a beacon to draw in curious visitors. It is a quiet, glowing lure at the end of a long, living fishing line. When we look at the gulper eel, we see a creature that has mastered the art of doing very little, turning stillness into a survival strategy. It is perfectly content to wait, drifting in the heavy pressure, confident that the currents will eventually bring what it needs. There is something deeply peaceful about the way the gulper eel exists. It doesn't fight the currents or struggle against the darkness. It simply incorporates them into its being. Its bones are light and its muscles are soft, allowing it to remain buoyant with almost no effort at all. It is as if the eel is part of the water itself. A shadow that breathes and glows. As you listen to the steady rhythm of your own breath, you might feel a similar sense of ease. Like the gulper eel, you can let go of the need to move or strive. You can simply be, supported by the weight of your blankets, drifting in the quiet of your room. We leave the gulper eel now, its tiny tail light fading into a distant, comforting spark. We continue our slow descent, moving past the predators that wait and watch. As we go deeper, the energy of the ocean shifts. Not every creature in these depths is a hunter. Some have found a way to thrive by being even more gentle, turning away from the chase entirely to embrace a life of quiet scavenging. Just below us, a legendary figure of the deep is waiting, a creature with a fearsome name but a surprisingly tender way of life, drifting through the dark like a soft, living umbrella. Emerging from the velvet shadows of the midnight zone, we encounter a creature whose name suggests a story far more frightening than its reality. This is the vampire squid. Its scientific name, Vampiroteuthis infernalis, translates to the vampire squid from hell, a name given by early explorers who were struck by its dark, rust-red color and the web of skin that connects its 8 arms like a macabre cloak. With its large, luminous blue eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom relative to its body size, it can appear like a phantom drifting through the void. But as we watch it now, floating effortlessly in the cold, still water, we see that it is anything but a monster. It is, in fact, one of the most docile and gentle inhabitants of the deep. The vampire squid is a living relic, a bridge between the octopus and the squid that has remained largely unchanged for millions of years. It lives in a layer of the ocean known as the oxygen minimum zone, where the air is thin and life is sparse. To survive here, it has adopted a pace of life that is incredibly slow and meditative. It does not possess the ink sacs of its cousins, for in the total darkness, ink would be useless. Instead, if it feels threatened, it simply turns itself inside out, wrapping its webbed arms over its head to reveal soft, fleshy spines that look intimidating but are entirely harmless. It becomes a small, spiky ball, waiting patiently for the moment to pass. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about the vampire squid is how it eats. Unlike almost every other cephalopod, it does not hunt living prey. It has no need for the chase. Instead, it has evolved 2 long retractile filaments, thin white threads that can extend to many times the length of its body. The squid drifts. It lets these filaments hang in the water, where they act like sticky sensors. They catch the tiny drifting particles of organic matter that fall silently from the sunlit world far above. This constant ghostly rain is known as marine snow. When the filaments are coated in this nourishment, the squid gently draws them back toward its mouth, cleaning the threads and starting the process over again. It is a life of quiet collection, a slow and steady gathering of the ocean's nutrients. There is a profound stillness in this strategy, a rejection of the struggle in favor of a peaceful coexistence with the currents. As you settle deeper into your own rest, you might imagine those long, delicate filaments drifting through the dark, catching only what is needed, moving with a grace that requires no effort at all. The vampire squid reminds us that even in the most unforgiving environments, there is room for gentleness. It doesn't fight the pressure or the lack of light. It simply opens its cloak and accepts the gifts that fall from above. We leave this quiet scavenger now, watching as it retracts its threads and pulses its ear-like fins, swimming away like a soft red umbrella in the dark. Our focus now turns to the very source of its life, that mysterious, shimmering rain that connects the surface of our world to the very bottom of the sea. We look closer at the tiny white flakes drifting past us, the silent messengers of the deep. As you settle deeper into the cool, dark embrace of the water, you might notice that the space around you is not entirely empty. In the beam of an imaginary light, thousands of tiny white flecks appear, drifting downward like a gentle blizzard in slow motion. This is marine snow, a phenomenon as beautiful as its name suggests. And it is the primary reason that life can exist in these sunless depths. Though it looks like a winter flurry, this snow is not made of ice. It is composed of organic detritus, tiny bits of biological history falling from the productive, sun-drenched layers far above. Each flake is a complex mixture of dead or dying plankton, tiny shells, plant matter, and other organic material that has been bound together by a sticky, mucus-like substance. It is the ocean's way of recycling, a continuous cascade of nutrients that carries the energy of the sun down into the dark. If the surface is the garden of the world, then marine snow is the harvest that is shared with those who live below. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine yourself suspended in this silent, white drift. There is no wind here, no rushing current to scatter the flakes. They move with an incredible, meditative slowness. In fact, it can take weeks, sometimes even months, for a single flake of marine snow to reach the very bottom of the ocean. It is a journey of thousands of miles, undertaken at a pace that defies the hurried nature of the world above. As the flakes descend, they are often intercepted and eaten by creatures like the vampire squid we just met, or they are colonized by deep-sea bacteria that break them down further, releasing minerals back into the water. There is something deeply comforting about this slow, vertical migration. It is a constant, rhythmic pulse that has continued for millions of years, connecting the smallest spark of life at the surface to the vast, quiet plains of the abyss. The snow never stops falling. Even now, as you find a comfortable position and let your muscles go heavy, millions upon millions of these tiny messengers are drifting through the darkness, providing food and life to a world that never sees the day. As we watch this shimmering rain, we begin to realize that the deep ocean is not a place of scarcity, but a place of incredible patience. The creatures here do not rush to find their next meal. They simply wait for the world above to provide. The silence of the snow mirrors the silence of your own bed as you drift toward sleep. The flakes are weightless, effortless, moving only because the Earth's gravity calls them home to the seafloor. In this blizzard of organic light, the shadows can play tricks on the eyes. The marine snow creates a backdrop of white static, a canvas upon which the giants of the deep occasionally appear. As the flakes drift past, they sometimes catch the reflection of something much larger, a presence that commands respect and awe. Out here, in the vast open water of the midnight zone, the small and the massive exist side by side. We leave the tiny flakes to their long journey and turn our gaze toward a shape emerging from the gloom, a legendary inhabitant of the deep whose very existence was once considered a myth. Among the falling snow, a giant begins to materialize, its great form moving with a grace that belies its immense size. The shape that emerges from the white haze of marine snow is long and tapering, its silhouette moving with a grace that seems almost impossible for a creature of such immense scale. This is the giant squid, a legendary inhabitant of the midnight zone that was, for centuries, spoken of only in whispers and sea shanties. In the quiet of the deep, we can see it for what it truly is, a masterpiece of evolution, a silent traveler in a world without sun. From the tip of its mantle to the ends of its two long hunting tentacles, a giant squid can grow to a length of 13 meters, or roughly 43 feet. To visualize this as you lie still, imagine a creature nearly as long as a large city bus, drifting effortlessly through the ink-black water. Despite its size, it does not move with the heavy, plodding weight we might expect of a giant on land. Here, in the embrace of the ocean, it is nearly weightless. It moves semi-gently, pulsing its muscular mantle, a rhythmic contraction that pushes water through a siphon, allowing it to glide through the dark like a ghost. As the creature turns slowly in the current, we catch a glimpse of its most remarkable feature. In the absolute darkness of the deep, vision would seem like an impossibility, yet the giant squid is a master of seeing the unseen. Its eyes are the largest of any animal on our planet, reaching the size of a dinner plate. These massive, wide-reaching lenses are specifically designed to catch the faintest, most microscopic hints of light. They are not looking for the sun, but for the bioluminescent flashes of other creatures, the distant, sparkling trail of a predator, or the soft glow of a potential meal. There is a profound sense of peace in watching this giant navigate the silence. For a long time, humanity viewed these creatures as monsters of the abyss. But here, in the stillness of their natural home, they are simply part of the ocean's gentle balance. They are solitary beings navigating thousands of miles of open water with a calm, steady focus. They remind us that even in the most remote, untouched corners of our world, life exists on a scale that is difficult for our minds to fully grasp. We watch with a sense of quiet respect as this titan of the deep glides through the drifting flakes of marine snow. There is no sound here, only the internal thrum of the ocean and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. The giant squid does not rush. It has all the time in the world. It is a guardian of the shadows, a dweller in the deep that asked for nothing but to remain in the quiet of its watery sanctuary. As the great creature pulses its mantle one last time and fades back into the darkness, we feel ourselves continuing to sink, drawn further down by the gentle pull of the earth. We are leaving the open water column now, moving past the realm of the giant swimmers and toward the very foundation of the sea. The water feels even stiller here, even more ancient. Below us, the vertical journey is nearing its end as the vast level expanse of the seafloor begins to rise up to meet us. We are approaching a place of infinite horizon and eternal rest. As we continue our slow, weightless descent, the open water begins to give way to a new kind of landscape. For a long time, there has been nothing but the dark vertical void, but now a soft horizon begins to reveal itself beneath us. We are approaching the abyssal plains, the true floor of the world. It is a moment of profound stillness, like arriving home after a very long journey. The abyssal plains are perhaps the most mysterious and vast environments on our planet. While we often think of the Earth in terms of its continents, its mountains, and its forests, the reality is that this deep, quiet landscape covers over 50% of the Earth's total surface. It is the most common environment on our globe, yet it remains hidden from our eyes, tucked away under miles of heavy protective water. It is a world of incredible scale, a silent expanse that stretches out in every direction, further than the mind can easily follow. As we drift closer to the bottom, the features of the seafloor become clear. Unlike the jagged peaks of the mountains above or the rocky shorelines of the coast, the abyssal plain is characterized by its incredible flatness. It is a level, serene desert of sediment smoothed out over millions of years. This floor is covered in a thick, soft layer of fine silt and clay, a mixture of mineral particles and the remains of microscopic sea life that has drifted down from the surface over eons. It is a place where time seems to have slowed to a crawl, where every inch of the soft ground represents thousands of years of history, settled quietly in the dark. Take a slow, steady breath now. Feel the air move in and out, as calm and rhythmic as the deep-sea currents. As we reach this vast floor, let yourself feel the same sense of grounding and rest. The water here doesn't push or pull, it simply cradles everything in its path. The pressure, which felt so immense during our descent, now feels like a warm, heavy blanket, keeping everything in place, holding the world in a state of perfect, unchanging peace. We are no longer drifting through the empty blue. We have found the foundation. Looking out across the plains, there are no trees, no crashing waves, and no wind. There is only the soft velvet texture of the sediment and the infinite horizon. In this place, the silence is absolute. It is a sanctuary of rest, where the debris of the world above finally finds its place to settle and become one with the earth. We hover just a few feet above this ancient dust, moving slowly, watching the way the light of our imagination catches the tiny ripples in the silt. Everything here is soft, muted, and still. We have reached the heart of the abyss, a place that has remained unchanged for millions of years, waiting in the quiet for us to simply observe and be still. As we move forward, parallel to the ground, we begin to see that this desert is not entirely empty. In the distance, small shapes begin to emerge from the haze, creatures that have adapted to live not in the water column, but in constant contact with the earth itself. They move with a deliberate, slow grace, perfectly synchronized with the eternal rhythm of the deep. As we glide over this soft, silty horizon, a strange and wonderful silhouette emerges from the gloom. It does not swim away as we approach. It remains perfectly rooted to the spot, like a delicate sculpture placed intentionally upon the seafloor. This is the tripod fish, one of the most peculiar and patient inhabitants of the abyssal depths. In a world where swimming requires a constant expenditure of energy, this creature has found a way to simply stand still. Look closely at how it rests. The tripod fish possesses 3 incredibly long, stiff rays that extend from its fins, 2 from its pelvic fins and 1 from the lower part of its tail. These rays can reach lengths of over a meter, far longer than the fish's actual body. When it settles on the bottom, these rays act like stilts, allowing the fish to stand firmly on the muddy floor like a miniature stool or a fragile lunar lander. By perching itself this way, it avoids sinking into the soft, thick sediment of the abyssal plain, staying clean and elevated in the clear water just above the ground. There is a quiet intelligence to this posture. In the deep ocean, there are slow, steady currents that act like a gentle breeze across the plains. The tripod fish always faces directly into this current. It does not need to hunt or chase its prey. It simply waits. By standing on its stilts, it positions its mouth at the perfect height to intercept the tiny crustaceans and bits of marine snow that are carried along by the moving water. It is a passive hunter, a master of the wait-and-see approach, conserving every bit of its energy in the cold, dark quiet. Watch the way it holds its pectoral fins. They are held up and out, near its head, like two delicate, transparent fans or a pair of sensitive hands. Because the eyes of the tripod fish are small and not very useful in the near total darkness, these fins have become its primary sensors. They are highly sensitive to the slightest vibrations in the water. When a tiny shrimp or a nutritious particle drifts near, the fins feel the movement, alerting the fish that a meal is within reach. It is a life of total focused presence, standing in the dark, feeling the pulse of the ocean, and trusting the current to bring what is needed. As we linger here, watching this tiny sentinel, let its stillness settle over you. There is no hurry in the abyss. There is no pressure to move, to achieve, or to seek. Like the tripod fish, you can simply be present, supported by the world around you, letting the gentle flow of time carry everything you need. The fish remains motionless as we pass, a silent monument to the beauty of adaptation. It is a reminder that even in the most extreme environments, life finds a way to exist in harmony with its surroundings, turning the very darkness and the slow currents into a source of life and rest. The sediment around its feet remains undisturbed, a testament to how lightly it rests upon the earth. We continue our journey across this velvet floor, leaving the tripod fish to its eternal vigil. As we move further into the haze of the abyssal plain, the landscape begins to reveal more of its hidden life. Creatures that do not stand tall, but instead move with a slow, rhythmic grace across the very surface of the silt. As we glide past the stationary tripod fish, our path takes us over a terrain that seems at first to be empty, a desert of gray and tan silt. But as your eyes adjust to the soft glow of our presence, you begin to see movement, slow, deliberate, and rhythmic. Here, scattered across the vast plains, are the sea cucumbers. They are not the simple, static creatures you might find in a shallow tide pool. Here, in the deep, they have evolved into something far more ethereal and essential. In these silent reaches, the sea cucumbers are the dominant force of life. It is a surprising fact that they make up the vast majority of the biomass on the abyssal floor. In many areas, if you were to gather all the living tissue from the seabed, nearly 90% of it would belong to these soft-bodied wanderers. They are the great recyclers of the earth, the janitors of the deep. They spend their long, quiet lives vacuuming the sea floor, consuming the organic detritus and marine snow that has spent weeks drifting down from the sunlit world far above. By processing this sediment, they breathe life back into the ocean floor, preventing the abyss from becoming a stagnant graveyard. Take a moment to watch one of them move. Its body is soft, perhaps a pale lilac or a translucent pink, appearing almost like a cloud that has settled on the mud. It moves by using dozens of tiny water-filled tube feet that ripple in a slow motion wave. There is no urgency in its pace. It has all the time in the world. As it feeds, it leaves behind a trail of clean, processed sand, a small but vital contribution to the health of the entire planet. But not all sea cucumbers are bound to the ground. As we look slightly upward into the dark water just above the silt, we see a shape that seems to defy what we know of these creatures. This is a swimming sea cucumber, a marvel of deep-sea adaptation. Unlike their cousins on the floor, these species have developed the ability to dance. They possess delicate, webbed membranes that they can pulse with a slow, hypnotic rhythm, allowing them to lift off from the sediment and drift through the water like a ghostly umbrella or a translucent bell. They swim to escape predators or to find a new patch of nutrient-rich sediment, but to our eyes, it looks like a silent underwater ballet. They rise and fall with a grace that is almost weightless, their bodies glowing faintly with a soft bioluminescence as they move. Watch the slow expansion and contraction of their translucent forms. It is a pulse as steady as a deep, calm breath. As you watch this rhythmic dance, feel your own breathing match that slow, steady pulse, in and out. The ocean floor is a place of perpetual motion, yet it is a motion that never feels hurried. Everything here moves in cycles. The falling snow, the crawling cleaners, and the dancing drifters. The sea cucumber teaches us the value of the slow path, the importance of cleaning and renewing, and the beauty of finding grace even in the heaviest of pressures. We leave these gentle gardeners to their work, their soft shapes fading back into the haze of the plains. The floor remains a place of soft textures and quiet movements. But as we continue, the water column above the silt begins to reveal other residents, creatures that do not crawl or dance with bells, but instead use soft wing-like fins to fly through the darkness with a gentleness that seems almost impossible at such depths. As we drift slightly higher above the seafloor, leaving the sea cucumbers to their patient work, we encounter a silhouette that is as charming as it is mysterious. It moves with a soft, fluttering motion, appearing almost like a ghost drifting through a cathedral of shadows. This is the Dumbo octopus, a creature whose name evokes a sense of wonder and innocence in this vast, dark wilderness. It gets its name from the two large ear-like fins protruding from the top of its head, or more accurately, its mantle. These fins resemble the ears of the famous flying elephant from the stories of old, and they serve a similar purpose. While most octopuses move by jetting water through a siphon, a method that can be sudden and jarring, the Dumbo octopus prefers a more elegant and energy-efficient method. It flaps these fins in a slow, rhythmic beat, effectively flying through the water column. Watch it for a moment in your mind's eye. It does not dash or dart. It glides. It is a slow-motion dance in a world where time seems to have no meaning. These gentle cephalopods are the deepest living genus of all known octopuses on Earth. They have been found at depths of 4,000 meters, and some have even been spotted in the crushing darkness of 7,000 meters below the surface. At these depths, the pressure is immense, yet the Dumbo octopus remains soft and supple. Its body is composed of a jelly-like substance that is nearly the same density as the surrounding water, allowing it to maintain its shape without the need for a rigid skeleton. It exists in perfect equilibrium with its environment, a testament to the resilience of life in the extreme. As you follow its path, notice how it uses its arms, Unlike the long-reaching tentacles of its shallow water cousins, the Dumbo octopus has short, webbed arms that look more like a delicate umbrella or a flared skirt. When it isn't flapping its ear fins, it can use this webbing to pulse through the water, or it can simply drift, letting the deep-sea currents carry it toward its next meal. It feeds on small sails, worms, and amphipods that live near the bottom, swallowing them whole in the quiet dark. There is something deeply comforting about the Dumbo octopus. In a place that many would imagine as harsh or frightening, here is a creature that is soft, rounded, and graceful. It lacks an ink sac, as there is no need to create a cloud of darkness within a world that is already dark. It has no need for the aggressive defenses seen in the sunlit layers. Instead, it relies on its camouflage and its ability to remain perfectly still, blending into the velvet blackness of the abyss. Take a deep breath and imagine the weightlessness of this creature. It does not fight the water. It belongs to it. It moves with the ease of a cloud drifting across a night sky. The water around it is cold, perhaps just a few degrees above freezing, but the octopus is at home. Its large, dark eyes are designed to capture the tiniest glimmers of light, though here, those glimmers are rare. It lives in a state of perpetual evening, a quiet existence where every movement is intentional and calm. As we watch the Dumbo octopus flutter its fins one last time and disappear into the gloom, we are reminded of the incredible diversity of form that life can take. Even in the deepest reaches, nature finds a way to create shapes that are soft and beautiful. We begin to descend again, back toward the sediment of the plains, where the soft shapes of the water column give way to more ancient armored forms. On the seafloor, time moves even more slowly, and the residents have learned to wait years for a single moment of activity. We turn our attention now to the shadows resting on the silt, where creatures of a much different texture are waiting in the stillness. As we settle onto the soft, silty floor of the abyssal plain, the movement around us changes. We leave behind the drifting, jelly-like forms of the open water and encounter the sturdy, armored residents of the seabed. Resting quietly in the sediment is a creature that feels like a bridge between the world we know and this alien realm, the giant isopod. If you have ever spent a quiet afternoon in a garden and turned over a stone to find a tiny gray woodlouse scurrying away, you have met its distant cousin. But here, in the cold and the dark, everything is scaled differently. These creatures are a marvel of deep-sea evolution. While a garden woodlouse is barely the size of a fingernail, the giant isopod can grow to be the size of a house cat. Their bodies are protected by a thick, segmented exoskeleton, a pale, iridescent lilac or gray that catches the faint glow of our imagination. They have 14 jointed legs that allow them to crawl slowly over the uneven terrain of the seafloor, searching for the gifts that fall from the world above. They are the heavy, armored explorers of the deep, moving with a deliberate, mechanical grace across the dust of the ocean floor. There is a profound sense of stillness that radiates from the isopod. In the deep ocean, food is a rare luxury, and survival depends on the ability to wait. The giant isopod is perhaps the greatest practitioner of this patience. Because the water is so cold and their lives are so quiet, their metabolism has slowed to a crawl. Scientists have observed these creatures going for incredible lengths of time without eating, sometimes 5 years or more in a state of near total dormancy. They do not pace or hunt with urgency. They simply exist, nestled in the silt, waiting for the ocean to provide. Think of the passage of time in such a place. To us, a year is a long cycle of seasons, but to the isopod, it is perhaps just a few long breaths in the dark. They are the monks of the abyss, perfectly content in their solitude. They possess large fixed eyes with thousands of facets designed to detect the slightest movement or the dimmest bioluminescent spark. Yet they often spend their lives in a state of peaceful unmoving. When they do find a meal, perhaps a large fish that has finally reached the end of its journey, they eat their fill and then return to their long, quiet slumber. When threatened, they can curl into a tight armored ball, much like the pill bugs in the soil above, protecting their soft undersides. But here, there are few who would disturb them. They are part of the landscape, as much a part of the deep as the currents and the cold. As you visualize the isopod resting on the seafloor, let your own breath slow down to match its rhythm. There is no rush here. There is no deadline. There is only the cool, heavy pressure of the water and the endless, comforting dark. We stay a moment longer, watching the faint trail left by an isopod's legs in the fine dust of the plains. It is a reminder that even in the most remote corners of our planet, life persists with a quiet, stubborn dignity. This tendency for creatures to grow to such unusual sizes in the deep is a mystery that has long fascinated those who study the sea. As we move further across the plains, we begin to see that the isopod is not alone in its scale. The deep has a way of stretching life, of turning the small into the grand and the simple into the complex. We turn our thoughts now to why the abyss fosters such giants and the strange logic that governs growth in a world without sun. As we continue our still weightless drift across the abyssal plains, a realization begins to settle over us. The proportions of life here are different from what we know in the sunlit world above. This is the phenomenon known as deep-sea gigantism, a strange and beautiful rule of the deep where species grow to sizes that would seem impossible in shallower waters. We have already seen the isopod, a cousin of the tiny garden pill bug that has grown to the size of a household pet. But it is only one example of a vast, silent guild of giants. Think of the sea spider, which in the shallows is often no larger than a fingernail, but here, in the dark, can stretch its spindly legs to the width of a dinner plate. Or the Japanese spider crab, whose legs can span nearly 4 meters, moving through the water like a slow-motion constellation of joints and armor. Even the squids and octopuses of the deep-reach dimensions that dwarf their surface-dwelling relatives. It is as if the pressure of the water, rather than crushing life, has provided a vast, open room for it to expand into, free from the constraints of the turbulent surface. Scientists have long pondered why the abyss fosters such scale. It is a logic born of necessity and the unique physics of the deep. One of the primary reasons is the temperature. The water here is consistently near freezing, and in such cold, the biological processes of life slow down to a rhythmic, steady crawl. This cold environment leads to increased cell size and a much longer lifespan. When a creature lives for decades or even centuries, it has more time to grow, slowly accumulating mass in a world where there are no seasons to interrupt its progress. There is also the matter of food. In a place where nutrients are scarce, being large is a distinct advantage. A larger body can store more energy, allowing an animal to survive for months or years between meals. It also allows them to travel further across the barren plains in search of the next fallen gift from the surface. In the deep, size is not about dominance or aggression. It is about efficiency. It is a way to bridge the long gaps of silence and hunger that define the abyss. As you imagine these gentle giants moving through the dark, feel the sense of peace that their size brings. They are not hurried. They do not need to be. Their large bodies move with a deliberate, effortless grace, carried by the slow currents. The evolutionary logic of the abyss is one of endurance. To be big is to be patient. To be big is to be a vessel for life that can withstand the test of time. We watch a shadow pass, a large, slow-moving shape that reminds us of the vastness of this habitat. Every creature here is a masterpiece of adaptation, a testament to the way life finds a way to thrive in the most extreme conditions. And as we look closer at the seafloor, we see that gigantism isn't reserved only for those who swim or crawl. It is also found in the structures that root themselves in the silt, growing so slowly and so anciently that they become part of the very history of the planet. We begin to notice delicate, shimmering forms rising from the sediment, structures that look like intricate lace made of frozen light. These are the elders of the deep life forms that have stood silent for thousands of years, watching the world change from the safety of the dark. These delicate structures, appearing like ethereal vases or intricate lace fans, are known as glass sponges. They whiz from the silt with a fragile elegance that seems almost impossible under the weight of the miles of water above. Unlike the soft, porous sponges we might imagine from shallower reefs, these creatures are built from a much more resilient material. Their skeletons are constructed entirely from silica, the very same material that makes up the glass in our windows and the sand on a distant, sun-drenched beach. Imagine a city of glass, built molecule by molecule in the absolute dark. The silica forms a complex, geometric lattice, a cage of crystalline light that provides both structure and sanctuary. In the rare beam of a submersible's light, these sponges do not just exist. They shimmer, reflecting a brilliance that has remained unseen for an eternity. They are sculptures of the abyss, intricate and perfect, woven together by biological processes that favor precision over speed. There is a profound meditative stillness to the glass sponge. Because they are rooted to the seafloor, they do not hunt or move in the way we usually define life. They simply stay, filtering the slow-moving currents for microscopic particles of food that drift into their glass nets. This pace of life, so slow it is almost imperceptible, allows them to achieve a longevity that is truly staggering. Scientists have discovered individual glass sponges that have been alive for over 10,000 years. Let that number settle into your mind as you breathe slowly and deeply. 10,000 years. When these sponges first anchored themselves to the silt of the abyssal plain, the last great ice age was only just beginning to wane. They have stood in this exact spot, in this same cold silence, while human civilizations were born, flourished, and faded into history. They were here before the pyramids were built, and they have remained unchanged while the world above transformed 1,000 times over. They are the silent, enduring witnesses of the deep. To look at a glass sponge is to look at a living bridge to the distant past. They remind us that time moves differently down here. It is not measured in the frantic ticking of a clock or the changing of the seasons, but in the slow, patient accumulation of minerals and the steady, rhythmic pulse of the great ocean. There is a deep comfort in this kind of permanence. In a world that often feels hurried, the glass sponge offers a vision of life that is patient, rooted, and incredibly resilient. As we drift past these ancient glass towers, we feel a sense of grounding. There is a peace in knowing that something so delicate looking can be so enduring, surviving for millennia in the quiet safety of the dark. The abyss is a sanctuary for these oldest lives on earth, a place where time seems to hold its breath. But even in this land of ancient frozen glass and near freezing water, there are pockets of intense, hidden energy. As we follow the gentle slope of the seafloor, the constant cold begins to shift, and we start to sense a different kind of power emerging from the Earth's crust. Ahead, the darkness is interrupted by something unexpected, a warmth that rises from the very heart of the planet. As we continue our slow, rhythmic journey across the abyssal plain, the pervasive chill of the deep ocean begins to yield to a surprising localized warmth. It is a gentle change at first, a soft stirring in the water that feels like the first breath of spring after a long, silent winter. We are approaching one of the most remarkable features of our planet, the hydrothermal vents. These are the underwater geysers of the deep found nestled along the seams of the world where the Earth's great tectonic plates meet. Here, the crust of our planet is alive and moving, pulling apart ever so slightly to allow the inner heat of the Earth to reach out and touch the cold sea. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the sight before us. In the middle of the dark, flat desert of the sea floor, towering structures rise like the spires of a forgotten cathedral. These chimneys, some standing as tall as a 15-story building, are formed over many years as hot, mineral-rich water billows out from the Earth's interior and meets the near-freezing water of the abyss. As the hot fluid hits the cold, the minerals it carries solidify, slowly building these dark, craggy towers centimeter by centimeter. The water emerging from these vents is truly extraordinary. It can reach temperatures as high as 400 degrees Celsius. On the surface, water would boil and turn to steam long before reaching such a heat. But down here, the rules are different. Because of the immense pressure of the miles of water resting above us, that heavy, comforting weight we felt earlier, the water cannot boil. Instead, it remains a dense, shimmering liquid, pulsing with a raw, primal energy. It flows out into the darkness in plumes that look like dark smoke, giving these vents the nickname Black Smokers. But it isn't smoke at all. It is a rich, life-giving soup of minerals, iron, and sulfur rising from the molten heart of our planet. In the vast, freezing expanse of the deep ocean, these hydrothermal vents act as islands of warmth. They are the hearths of the abyss, providing a steady, glowing heat in a world that has never known the sun. There is something deeply peaceful about finding this hidden warmth in the dark. It reminds us that even in the most remote and silent places, the earth is vibrant and alive, constantly renewing itself and providing the energy needed for life to flourish. As we float near these shimmering plumes, we feel the gentle movement of the water, a soft, swirling current created by the rising heat. It is a place of profound contrast, where the extreme cold of the abyss meets the intense heat of the Earth's core, creating a perfect, delicate balance. We are witnessing the very pulse of our planet, a slow and steady heartbeat that has been thumping for billions of years. And as we linger in this warm, mineral-rich glow, we begin to notice that this heat does more than just warm the water. It creates the foundation for a world that defies everything we thought we knew about how life survives. In this golden, shimmering pocket of the deep, the absence of sunlight is not a barrier, but an invitation for a different kind of miracle to take hold. As we drift in the gentle, swirling currents near these dark spires, we begin to understand that we are standing in a place that rewrites the very laws of nature as we know them. For most of our lives, we are taught that the sun is the ultimate source of all energy. We think of green leaves reaching toward the light, drinking in the sun's rays to create food through photosynthesis. But here, miles beneath the waves, the sun is a distant memory, a faint dream that never reaches these depths. And yet, life does not just exist here. It thrives with a quiet, persistent intensity. This is because life in the deep has found a different power source. Here, life is powered by chemicals, not sunlight. It is a silent, hidden miracle that occurs in the complete and total absence of light. This remarkable process is known as chemosynthesis. It is a slow, rhythmic alchemy that turns the Earth's raw minerals into the very building blocks of existence. If you can, imagine the tiny microscopic bacteria that live in and around these vents, invisible to the eye, but essential to the spirit of this place. While the plants on the surface rely on the sky, these bacteria rely on the heart of the planet. They take the hydrogen sulfide, a potent mineral-rich compound that rises in the dark plumes from the vents, and they convert it into energy. To us, these chemicals might seem strange or harsh, but to the inhabitants of the deep, they are the breath of life itself. These bacteria are the silent gardeners of the abyss, weaving energy out of the very darkness and providing the nourishment that sustains every other living thing in this hidden sanctuary. There is something deeply comforting about the resilience of this process. It reveals a world where life is not a fragile accident, but a determined force that finds a way to flourish, even in the most extreme conditions. We are witnessing a way of living that is entirely independent of the world above. If the sun were to stop shining tomorrow, the life around these hydrothermal vents would continue on, undisturbed, fueled by the steady, volcanic heat of the earth. It is a humbling realization to see how life finds a way without the sun, adapting to the cold and the dark with a grace that is almost beyond our comprehension. As we linger in the warmth of the vent, we feel the slow, steady pulse of this chemical energy. It is a quiet, invisible flow that binds every creature here together in a delicate web of survival. The darkness no longer feels empty. It feels full of potential. A nursery for forms of life that look and behave like nothing else on our planet. We are beginning to see how this microscopic energy transforms into something much larger as we look closer at the strange and beautiful structures that have grown around these vents, waiting to catch the bounty that the bacteria provide. Among the shimmering plumes, we see the first signs of these inhabitants, standing tall and still, ready to show us how they have made this chemical world their home. Standing like silent sentinels among the shimmering warmth of the vents, we encounter some of the most unusual residents of this deep world, the giant tube worms. In the soft glow of our imagination, they appear as long, slender stalks of white, topped with vibrant, feathered plumes of deep crimson. They do not look like animals as we know them. They look more like a forest of alien flowers, swaying ever so slowly in the gentle, mineral-rich currents. These creatures are the Riftia pachyptila, and they are perhaps the most iconic symbols of life's incredible ability to adapt to the most extreme conditions on Earth. As we watch them, we might notice something truly remarkable about their biology. These giant tube worms have no mouth, no stomach, and no traditional digestive tract. In a world where most life is defined by the search for food to eat, these worms have chosen a different path. They do not hunt, and they do not scavenge. Instead, they rely entirely on a beautiful internal partnership. Inside their bodies, they house billions of the chemosynthetic bacteria we spoke of earlier. The worm's bright red plume acts like a gill, reaching out into the water to collect oxygen, carbon dioxide, and the hydrogen sulfide rising from the vent. It then transports these chemicals through its bloodstream to a specialized organ called a trophosome, where the bacteria reside. In exchange for a safe home, the bacteria convert those chemicals into organic molecules that nourish the worm. It is a perfect silent exchange, a life sustained not by the act of consuming, but by the act of cooperating. These worms are not the small, delicate creatures their name might suggest. In the nutrient-dense environment surrounding the hydrothermal vents, they can grow to an astonishing size, reaching lengths of up to 2.4 meters, or roughly 8 feet. Imagine these long white tubes, taller than a person, clustered together in dense thickets on the dark sea floor. They grow with incredible speed, fueled by the constant flow of energy from the Earth's interior, creating a vertical landscape that provides shelter and structure for countless other species. As we drift past these towering, alien-like structures, we begin to see the vent community as a complex, bustling city. The tube worms are the skyscrapers of this dark metropolis, providing the foundation for a whole ecosystem that thrives in the warmth. The sight is serene and otherworldly, a testament to the creativity of nature. In this quiet, pressure-pressed world, the giant tube worms stand as a reminder that life does not always need a sun to grow tall, nor a mouth to be fed. It only needs the right rhythm and the right partner. As we look closer at the base of these great white tubes, we see that they are not alone. Other creatures are nestled in the shadows and among the mineral crusts, each with their own curious way of making the most of the planet's hidden heat. Among them are small, pale figures, moving with a so deliberate purpose, their bodies covered in a soft, ghostly texture that hints at yet another way to survive in the deep. As we lower our gaze from the towering white tubes of the worms, we notice movement among the jagged, mineral-rich rocks at their base. Small, ghostly white shapes are scuttling slowly through the darkness, navigating the crevices with a delicate, rhythmic caution. These are the Yeti crabs, creatures so strange and pale they seem to belong in a myth rather than the modern world. Their most striking feature, and the reason for their name, is the thick, silky fur that covers their long, outstretched claws and legs. But in the deep ocean, where every feature has a purpose, nothing is quite what it seems. This isn't fur like a mammal's. It is actually a dense coating of hair-like bristles called setae. And if you could look through a magnifying glass in this quiet dark, you would see that these bristles are not just decoration. They are teeming with life, covered in thick, lush colonies of filamentous bacteria. The Yeti crab is more than just a host to these tiny organisms. It is a gardener of the deep. It has developed a survival strategy that is as clever as it is patient, a method of farming that allows it to thrive in the shadows of the hydrothermal vents. You might see one of these crabs slowly waving its furry claws back and forth, moving them through the shimmering warm water that escapes from the Earth's crust because it isn't trying to swim or defend itself. Instead, it is tending to its crops. By moving its limbs through the mineral-rich flow, it ensures that its bacterial colonies receive a steady supply of oxygen and the life-giving chemicals, like hydrogen sulfide, that they need to grow. The crab tends to its garden with an unhurried grace, waiting for the bacteria to flourish on its own limbs. When it is time to eat, the crab uses specialized comb-like mouthparts to gently scrape the bacteria from its own bristles, bringing the harvest to its mouth. It is a self-sustaining cycle, a way to carry its food source wherever it goes. In a place where a meal can be a rare and precious thing, the Yeti crab has found a way to become its own provider, turning its own body into a microscopic pasture. Watching them work is a lesson in the quiet ingenuity of the deep. There is no frantic hunting here, no desperate chase. There is only the steady, rhythmic waving of claws in the warm current and the slow, methodical harvesting of life. It is a peaceful existence, tucked away in the shadows of the world's most extreme environments. As we move further away from the glowing warmth of these vents, leaving the bustling cities of tube worms and the diligent Yeti crabs behind, the landscape begins to change once again. The seafloor stretches out before us, vast and seemingly endless. But even in this emptiness, there are sights that challenge our perception of what is possible. We are moving into areas where the water begins to behave in ways that defy our common understanding, a place of hidden borders and silent, heavy depths where the ocean hides even more secrets within its own embrace. As we glide further into the vast, shadowy plains of the deep, the landscape begins to reveal something truly extraordinary. Imagine, for a moment, that you are drifting across a desert on the seafloor and suddenly you come upon the edge of a lake. It sounds like something from a dream, a piece of surrealist art. But here, in the silence of the abyss, it is a physical reality. These are the brine pools, one of the most mysterious and visually stunning features of the deep ocean. A brine pool is essentially an underwater lake, a body of water that sits on the seafloor but remains entirely separate from the ocean around it. This happens because of a remarkable difference in chemistry. These pools are filled with water that is incredibly salty, frequently 5 times higher in salinity than the surrounding seawater. Because this high concentration of salt makes the water much denser and heavier, it does not mix with the rest of the ocean. Instead, it sinks into the low-lying basins of the seafloor, gathering in quiet, concentrated pools that can remain undisturbed for centuries. When you look at the edge of a brine pool, the transition is sharp and clear. There is a visible surface, a shimmering boundary that separates the normal ocean water from the heavy, thick brine below. It is a true ocean within an ocean. Because of this density, these pools possess features we usually only associate with the world above the waves. They have their own shorelines, often lined with dark beds of mussels or white crusty mineral deposits that look like sandy beaches. Perhaps most incredible of all is that these pools can have their own waves. Because the brine is so much thicker than the water above it, any movement in the ocean currents can cause the surface of the pool to ripple and break, sending slow-motion waves crashing against its own internal shores. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the stillness of such a place. It is a world of perfect mirrors and heavy, silent liquid. If a small craft or a deep-sea creature were to rest upon the surface of one of these pools, it would bob and float, unable to penetrate the dense layer beneath. It is a barrier of physics, a place where the water itself becomes a floor. These pools are often devoid of the larger fish we have seen, as the extreme salt content is too harsh for most life to endure. Yet, around the edges, life still finds a way to huddle, feeding on the nutrients that seep from the margins. There is a profound sense of peace in the existence of these hidden lakes. They remind us that even in the most uniform environments, there are layers of complexity, hidden pockets of wonder that follow their own rules. The water here is ancient, heavy with the weight of the salt and the pressure of the miles of ocean above. As we move past these shimmering, silver-edged pools, we continue our journey across the seafloor, noticing how the chemistry of the earth continues to shape the world in quiet, unexpected ways. We are moving toward areas where the seafloor doesn't just hold water, but breathes out its own steady, cool energy, creating yet another sanctuary in the dark. As we drift away from the heavy, still surfaces of the brine pools, the seafloor beneath us begins to change once more, moving from the crystalline mirrors of salt to a landscape defined by a different kind of quiet energy. We are approaching what scientists call cold seeps. The name might sound chilling, but in reality, it describes a place of incredible stability and biological richness. Unlike the hydrothermal vents we visited earlier, which blast out scorching mineral-rich water like underwater volcanoes, cold seeps are far more patient and gentle. In these areas, The fluids and gases that emerge from the cracks in the Earth's crust are at almost exactly the same temperature as the surrounding seawater. There is no violent turbulence here, no sudden plumes of heat or shimmering, distorted water. Instead, there is just a slow, steady exhalation of chemicals from the deep layers of the planet. It is a quiet, rhythmic process, a gentle breathing of the earth that has continued for thousands of years in the absolute dark. Imagine a landscape where the ground itself is alive with a subtle, invisible energy. In these areas, methane and hydrogen sulfide seep through the sediment, providing a feast for the specialized bacteria that call this place home. Because the energy release is so slow and the temperature is so consistent, these sites often host communities that are even more ancient and established than those found at the hot vents. It is a sanctuary of calm, where the pace of life matches the slow, eternal drift of the deep water. As we look closer at the edges of these seeps, we might notice something that looks like patches of white snow or chunks of pale, translucent rock nestled into the mud. This is actually methane hydrate, a substance often referred to as fire ice. It is a strange and beautiful phenomenon of the deep, a solid form of methane gas trapped inside cages of frozen water molecules. In the extreme cold and the crushing pressure of the deep ocean, the gas cannot escape. It freezes into a crystalline structure that looks and feels like ordinary ice. It is perfectly stable here, locked away in the freezing dark. If this ice were ever brought to the surface, it would hiss and bubble as the gas escaped its cage, and if you were to strike a match near it, the ice itself would appear to catch fire. But down here, miles below the surface, it remains a quiet, frozen witness to the chemistry of the deep, forming white mounds that glow softly in our mind's eye. The energy of the cold seep is steady and reliable, a constant source of life in a world without sun. It feels like a heartbeat, slow and unchanging, providing a home for tube worms and clams that may live for centuries. We linger for a moment in this peaceful chemical garden, watching the slow, rhythmic movement of the creatures that thrive on the earth's breath. The air, or rather the water, here feels heavy with the weight of time. But even as we find comfort in this stability, we realize that the floor beneath us is beginning to drop away once more. The vast, flat plains are giving way to something much deeper, much narrower, and even more silent. We are preparing to leave the abyssal plains behind and descend into the final frontier of our planet, the great dark canyons that mark the very limits of the world. Take a slow, steady breath as the ground falls away, and we begin our final descent into the deepest shadows of all. As the vast, sediment-covered expanses of the abyssal plains begin to recede behind us, we find ourselves approaching the edge of a great, silent threshold. It is as if the earth itself has opened its arms to reveal a hidden world, tucked even further away from the reach of time. We are leaving the open plains and entering the Hadal Zone, the deepest and most mysterious layer of our planet's oceans. The name Hadal is derived from Hades, the ancient Greek god of the underworld. In mythology, Hades presided over a realm of shadows and eternal rest, a place far removed from the noise and chaos of the living world above. It is a fitting title for this place. However, Unlike the frightening underworlds of legend, the Haddle Zone feels like a sanctuary of absolute unwavering peace. There is no wind here, no weather, and no seasons. The distractions of the surface are not even a memory in these depths. Here, the silence is so profound it feels like a soft weight, pressing gently against the mind, encouraging all thoughts to simply drift away like the marine snow we witnessed earlier. This zone begins at a staggering depth of 6,000 meters, nearly 4 miles beneath the waves, and extends all the way to the very bottom of the deepest trenches. To reach this point, we have traveled through layers of light and shadow, through cold currents and across wide plains. But now the topography changes. The open water narrows. We are no longer drifting over a flat floor, but descending into steep-walled, V-shaped canyons that cut deep into the Earth's crust. These are the trenches, the long, narrow scars where the tectonic plates of our world meet and fold beneath one another. Take a slow, steady breath now, feeling the air move in and out of your lungs with the same rhythmic certainty as the tides far above. As we descend into these canyons, notice how the walls rise up on either side of us, like the protective arms of a mountain. The water here is incredibly still. The currents that move the upper layers of the ocean do not reach this far. It is a place of ultimate stillness, where the only movement is our own slow, graceful descent into the dark. The walls of these trenches are often steep, covered in a fine, pale silt that has been settling here for millions of years. As we glide downward, the space around us feels more intimate, more enclosed. It is a comforting kind of darkness, like being tucked into a warm, heavy bed. The pressure of the water above is immense, but we don't feel it as a burden. Instead, we imagine it as a thick velvet blanket that holds everything in place, ensuring that nothing here is ever disturbed. In this deepest of zones, time seems to stop. We are moving into a realm that few eyes have ever seen, a place that remains one of the final frontiers of human knowledge. The canyons stretch out beneath us, leading to depths that challenge the imagination. We are drifting deeper now, leaving the 6,000-meter mark behind, moving toward the very heart of the trench. The shadows are deep, but they are kind, inviting us to let go of the world above and find rest in the quiet, narrow valleys of the deep. There is a sense of belonging here, as if we are being cradled by the very foundation of the earth itself. As the walls of the trench draw closer, we prepare to explore the most famous of these deep-sea cathedrals, the point where the world reaches its lowest, most peaceful ebb. We have arrived now at the most famous of these deep-sea cathedrals, a crescent-shaped scar in the Earth's crust located in the western Pacific. This is the Mariana Trench. It is not merely a canyon. It is the deepest part of the world's oceans, a place of such profound isolation and stillness that it feels like another world entirely. As we continue our slow, rhythmic descent, the walls of the trench seem to lean in closer, offering a sense of quiet protection from the turbulent world far above. To understand the scale of where we are, we must look at the world through a different lens. If you were to take Mount Everest, the highest point on our planet, and place it into the Mariana Trench, its snowy peak would still be submerged under more than 2 kilometers of water. We are drifting through a space that is deeper than the tallest mountain is high. It is a vastness that is difficult to comprehend. Yet here, in the dim and quiet, it feels intimate. A small, secret corner of the universe where time has no meaning. As we glide further down, we approach a specific slot-shaped valley at the southern end of the trench. This is the Challenger Deep. It is the absolute deepest point of the Earth's seabed, reaching a staggering depth of roughly 10,935 meters. At nearly 11 kilometers below the surface, we have reached the very floor of the world. The journey from the sunlight to this point has been long and gentle. And now, as we settle toward the bottom, the sense of peace is absolute. Take a moment to simply exist in this space. Imagine the water around you as a thick, cool silk holding you in place. There is no sound here, no light from the sun, and no movement from the winds. We are resting at the absolute limit of the Earth's crust, the point where the surface of our planet reaches its lowest, most quiet ebb. The ground beneath us is not hard rock, but a soft, fine layer of sediment, a mixture of crushed shells and organic remains that have drifted down over eons, forming a plush, velvety carpet. In this deepest reach, the pressure is immense, but in our minds, it is nothing more than a heavy, comforting blanket pressing away the stresses of the day. We are at the foundation of the world, a place where the geological heartbeat of the earth is slow and steady. There is a profound beauty in this limit, a sense of having reached the end of a long journey and finding only stillness and rest. As we look across this silent, dark landscape, we realize that even here, at the very bottom of the world, we are not alone. In the shadows of the Challenger Deep, life has found a way to not only survive, but to exist with a fragile, translucent grace. As we hover just above this fine, silken floor, your eyes begin to adjust to the stillness. The darkness here is not empty. It is a vast, velvet space where the smallest movement becomes a dance. Imagine a small shape emerging quietly from the shadows. It doesn't dart or flicker like the colorful fish of a sunlit coral reef. Instead, it glides with a slow, rhythmic undulation, appearing almost like a piece of soft, wet silk caught in a very gentle breeze. This is the Mariana snailfish, a creature that defies our expectations of what life at the bottom of the world should look like. For a long time, it was believed that the sheer weight of the ocean would prevent any animal with a backbone from surviving in these extreme depths. Yet, this humble tadpole-like fish has claimed the title of the deepest living fish ever recorded by science. It has been found thriving nearly 8,000 meters down in the cold, crushing embrace of the Hadal Zone, far deeper than any other vertebrate. As it swims closer to your field of vision, you notice how strangely beautiful and ethereal it is. Its body is translucent, a soft pinkish white that seems to catch a ghostly light from the void. You can see the delicate shadows of its internal structures through its skin, a testament to its honesty and simplicity. It is a being of pure efficiency, perfectly adapted to a world where resources are scarce. It has no scales, for scales are heavy and require precious energy to grow and maintain. In the deep, where every movement must be calculated and every calorie is a gift from the world above, the snailfish has chosen to be soft. There is something deeply comforting about the way it moves. It does not fight the water. It exists in harmony with it. Its skin is not tough or leathery, but gelatinous and smooth, allowing it to remain buoyant and flexible. Its lack of scales and its fragile appearance are not signs of weakness, but of a perfect, quiet resilience. It has found a way to be soft and indestructible all at once, a small spark of life in a place that seems so inhospitable to our eyes. Take a slow, deep breath and let your body feel as light as that translucent fish. Just as the snailfish survives by being soft and yielding, you can allow the tension to leave your muscles. Let the weight of your day dissolve into the stillness around you. There is no need for armor here. In the deep silence and softness are the greatest strengths. As the snailfish fades back into the velvet blackness of the trench, moving with a grace that seems almost otherworldly, we are left to marvel at its endurance. It is a reminder that life, in its most fragile forms, can withstand the most immense pressures. We are drifting at a depth where the very physics of existence are tested, where the invisible power of the water becomes a heavy, constant presence. You might wonder how a body so delicate, so clear, and so soft can remain intact under the weight of an entire ocean pressing down from above. The weight of the ocean above us is almost impossible for our surface-dwelling minds to fully grasp. At the very bottom of the world, in the deepest crevices of the Hadal Zone, the pressure is more than 1,000 times greater than what you are feeling right now in your room. On the surface, the air presses against us with a gentle, invisible touch. But here, the water becomes a solid, unrelenting force. To put it into perspective, if you were to stand at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the weight pressing down on every square inch of your body would be equivalent to an African elephant standing on the tip of your thumb. It is a staggering thought, a level of force that would instantly flatten any vessel not specifically designed to withstand it. Yet, as we have seen with the delicate snailfish, life does not just survive here, it flourishes. The secret to this endurance lies deep within the very building blocks of these creatures. While we might imagine that a deep-sea fish would need a hull of steel or bones of stone to resist the crushing weight, the reality is far more elegant. If these fish had air-filled spaces like we do, lungs or swim bladders, they would be crushed in an instant. Instead, they are filled with water and specialized fluids that are just as pressurized as the ocean around them. Because the pressure inside is equal to the pressure outside, there is no crushing at all. They are one with the water, fluid within fluid. But even at the molecular level, pressure can be a challenge. It can cause the proteins that make up a living body to fold and collapse, stopping the chemistry of life in its tracks. To counter this, deep-sea organisms have evolved remarkable specialized proteins and molecules called piezolites. One of the most common is a molecule known as TMAO, which acts like a kitty invisible scaffolding within the cells. These molecules surround the proteins, holding them in their proper shapes and preventing the weight of the miles of water above from distorting them. It is a quiet, microscopic defiance of the laws that govern the world above. Think of these molecules as tiny, supportive hands, cradling every cell and every strand of DNA, keeping everything in its right place. There is a profound sense of order in this. Even in the most extreme environment on Earth, nature has found a way to maintain its structure through softness and chemical harmony. The pressure isn't a burden to the creatures of the trench. It is simply the atmosphere they breathe, a heavy, constant blanket that holds them together. As you lie there, feel the weight of your own blankets or the surface beneath you. Imagine that this weight is not something you have to carry, but something that is supporting you. Like the snailfish, you don't need to fight the pressure of the world. You can simply exist within it, trusting in the strength of your own internal quiet. Your breath is slow and steady, matching the eternal rhythm of the deep. The water here is still, and though the weight is immense, there is no movement, no chaos, just a deep pressurized peace that has remained unchanged for millions of years. In this stillness, we begin to see that size and complexity aren't always necessary for survival. Sometimes the most resilient things are the ones that have stripped everything away until only the essentials remain. As we move further along the floor of the trench, we leave the world of vertebrates behind and encounter life forms that are so simple they challenge our very definition of an individual. These silent inhabitants of the silt wait for us in the dark, showing us that even at the edge of the impossible, life finds a way to be both immense and humble. As we drift further across the fine, silty floor of the trench, we encounter shapes that look like delicate pale blossoms, or perhaps discarded pieces of lace resting in the mud. These are the xenophyophores, and they are among the most mysterious and humble residents of the deep. In a world where we expect life to become more complex to survive, these creatures represent a beautiful, quiet simplicity. You might mistake them for a sponge or a clump of coral, with their intricate, folded structures that can grow to be surprisingly large. But the most incredible thing about a xenophyophore is that it is a single-celled organism. While most single cells are invisible to the human eye, these giants of the microbial world can reach 10 or even 20 centimeters in diameter. Imagine a single cell, one individual unit of life, large enough to be held in the palm of your hand. They are, in essence, massive amoebas. While an amoeba in a pond is a microscopic speck, here, in the crushing silence of the Hadal Zone, they have expanded into grand, complex shapes. They do not have a nervous system, a heart, or lungs. They are simply life, distilled to its very essence, existing at the extreme edge of what is possible. The structure you see, the body of the xenophyophore, is called a test. It is a shell that the organism builds by collecting minerals, tiny shells of other creatures, and the fine silt of the seafloor, gluing them together with its own organic secretions. This shell creates a labyrinth of tiny tunnels and fields, providing a broad surface where the cell can capture the slow, drifting particles of marine snow that settle here. There is something deeply peaceful about their existence. They do not hunt. They do not flee. They simply stay rooted in the soft mud, slowly filtering the water, growing one grain of sand at a time. In the absolute dark, they serve as miniature cities for even smaller life forms. Tiny worms and crustaceans find shelter within the folds of the xenophyophore shell, living in a quiet symbiosis at the bottom of the world. As you breathe in and out, consider the stillness of this life. A single cell, perfectly content in the darkness, undisturbed by the passage of centuries. It doesn't need to strive or compete. It simply is. It is a part of the sediment, a part of the water, a part of the silence. In this place, the boundaries between the living and the non-living seem to soften. The xenophyophore is made of the very floor it rests upon, blurring the line between the creature and its home. It reminds us that at our most basic level, we are all made of the same elements as the world around us. The simplicity of the xenophyophore is a comfort. It shows us that life doesn't always need to be loud or fast or complicated to be successful. Sometimes the greatest resilience is found in the quietest, most singular forms. As we leave these gentle giants behind, we realize that the floor they rest upon is not just a destination, but a reflection of the Earth's own long, slow history. The silt they filter and the shells they collect are part of a much larger cycle, a geological heartbeat that moves far slower than the flicker of a human life. Beneath this soft layer of life and sediment lies the very foundation of our world, the crust of the earth itself, which is constantly, silently moving. Even here, at the deepest point, the ground beneath us is part of a grander journey, one that takes millions of years to complete. We are standing on the edge of a great recycling process, where the old world is slowly pulled down to make room for the new. The ground here, beneath the soft blanket of sediment and the quiet xenophyophores, is not as solid or as permanent as it might seem. If you could see through the layers of silt, you would find the dark, dense basalt of the oceanic crust. This is the very skin of our planet, yet it is in a state of constant, incredibly slow motion. We are currently resting in a trench, a deep scar in the Earth's surface, and these trenches are formed by a process known as subduction. Imagine two colossal plates of the Earth's outer shell meeting in the darkness. One plate, older and heavier, begins to tilt downward, sliding beneath the other with a patient, unstoppable force. It is like a heavy velvet curtain being drawn slowly into the depths of the earth. This is how the Mariana Trench and all the great deeps of the world were born. Not through a sudden break, but through a movement so gradual it is measured in mere centimeters per year. As the heavy plate descends, it creates these narrow, steep-walled canyons that we call trenches. It is a journey into the interior of the planet, a descent that has been happening for millions of years. This process is the Earth's way of recycling itself. The crust that once sat high on the ocean floor, perhaps millions of years ago, is pulled down into the hot mantle far below. There, it will eventually melt and in the distant future rise again to form new land or new seafloor elsewhere on the globe. It is a beautiful closed loop, a planetary rhythm that ensures the Earth remains dynamic and alive. This recycling process happens on a time scale that is almost impossible to grasp. Far beyond the span of human history, to the creatures living here, the trench feels eternal and unchanging. But in the grander vision of the universe, it is a flowing river of stone. Think of this as the slow geological heartbeat of our world. Just as your own breath moves in and out in a steady, calming rhythm, the earth itself breathes in its old crust and exhales it as new. There is a profound sense of security in this movement. It reminds us that we are part of a planet that is constantly renewing itself, a world that is designed to sustain and transform over eons. The pressure here, which we felt so heavily before, is simply the weight of this grand process. The darkness is not an empty void, but a place where the very foundations of our home are being reshaped. Everything is connected, from the tiny flakes of marine snow drifting down to the massive tectonic plates shifting beneath the mud. As you lie there, feeling the weight of your own body against your bed, imagine you are resting on the back of this great, slow-moving giant. There is no rush here. There is only the steady, patient work of the earth. The silence of the trench is the silence of deep time, a place where the past and the future meet in the still, cold water. The walls of the trench around us are like the pages of a very old book containing the history of the world in their layers. Even in this deepest, darkest corner of the map, there is a sense of order and purpose. The earth knows exactly what it is doing. It is moving, changing, and recycling, all while we sleep in the quiet safety of its shadows. And while this geological movement is silent to our ears, the deep is not truly a place of absolute silence. Sound, too, behaves differently here, carrying messages from the world above through the dense, heavy water. As we drift further into the embrace of the Haddle Zone, we might expect to find a world of absolute heavy silence. We imagine the deep as a place where sound goes to die, muffled by miles of water and the crushing weight of the abyss. But the deep ocean has a voice of its own, and it is far more talkative than we once believed. Sound in the water is a different creature than sound in the air, because water is so much denser than the atmosphere we breathe. It carries vibrations with a clarity and speed that feels almost magical. In the air, sound moves at a steady, familiar pace, but down here, it travels nearly 4 times faster. It races through the darkness, covering kilometers in the blink of an eye. In this liquid world, sound doesn't dissipate or fade away as quickly as it does on land. Instead, it lingers and stretches, rolling through the water column like a long, low hum to an ear tuned to the deep. The ocean is not a void. It is a vast, interconnected echo chamber where every vibration tells a story of something happening elsewhere. Scientists who have lowered specialized, pressure-resistant microphones called hydrophones into the very bottom of the Mariana Trench have discovered something truly unexpected. This deepest point on Earth, over 11,000 meters down, is not a tomb of silence. It is surprisingly noisy, filled with the distant, muffled echoes of a living, breathing planet. When you listen to these recordings, you realize that the trench is a gallery for the world's sounds. You might hear the deep, haunting moans of baleen whales. These low-frequency calls are designed to travel across entire ocean basins, and they find their way down into the trenches as ghostly, rhythmic pulses, like a song sung from another dimension. You might hear the sharp crack and groan of the earth itself, the sound of tectonic plates grinding against one another, or the low-frequency rumble of a distant underwater earthquake vibrating through the seafloor. Even the weather of the surface world makes its presence known. The churning of a massive storm or the steady, rhythmic thrum of a ship's engine miles above filters down, transformed by the depth into a soft, indistinct murmur. Imagine these sounds not as noise, but as a gentle, ambient soundscape. They are not startling or loud. They are softened by the journey, arriving as a soothing vibration that wraps around you. It is a reminder that even in this most secluded sanctuary, you are still connected to the heartbeat of the entire world. It is like being in a warm, quiet room while a soft rain taps against a distant roof. A feeling of being perfectly tucked away, safe and still, while the great movements of the earth continue their slow, steady dance far above. These sounds move with incredible speed, racing through the cold water to reach the bottom. But the life that dwells here does not share that urgency. While the vibrations of the ocean race through the darkness, the creatures that call these trenches home move to a much slower, more patient drumbeat. Their lives are defined not by the speed of sound, but by a measured internal rhythm that allows them to endure in a world where every spark of energy must be cherished. As the distant echoes of the surface world fade into the background, we begin to notice the quiet, steady pulse of the life that remains here, perfectly still in the dark. In this realm of eternal twilight and immense pressure, time seems to stretch and expand, losing the frantic urgency of the world above. Here, the very engine of life, the metabolism, operates at a pace that is almost meditative. For many deep-sea creatures, the heartbeat is not a rapid flutter, but a deep, resonant event that occurs only a few times a minute. In some extreme cases, such as the Greenland shark or certain species of deep-dwelling fish, the heart might beat only once every few minutes, a slow and steady thrum that echoes the vast, unhurried patience of the abyss itself. This incredible slowness is a masterpiece of biological efficiency. In a place where food may only appear once every few weeks, and oxygen levels can be significantly lower than at the surface, these animals have learned the art of doing more with less. By lowering their metabolic rate to the barest minimum, they can survive for months or even years on a single meal. Their bodies do not waste energy on heat or unnecessary movement. They exist in a state of perpetual, wakeful rest, drifting through the dark like embers that refuse to go out. As you listen to the quiet hum of the world around you, you might imagine your own rhythm slowing down to match theirs. Let your breathing become as steady and effortless as a creature drifting through the midnight zone. There is no rush here. There are no deadlines or alarms. There is only the slow, rhythmic pulse of life continuing in the cold. This state of low energy is not a sign of weakness, but of profound resilience. It is a way of harmonizing with an environment that demands stillness. By moving slowly, they conserve the precious spark of life, allowing it to burn for much longer than it ever could in the sunlit world above. Imagine a fish suspended in the water column, its fins barely moving, its eyes wide and receptive. It is not waiting with anxiety, but with a calm, focused presence. Its internal systems are dialed down to a whisper. This physiological quietude allows these animals to inhabit parts of the planet that would be impossible for more active creatures to survive in. They have turned the scarcity of the deep into a sanctuary of endurance. In this stillness, the boundaries between the creature and the water seem to soften. When you are not fighting against the environment, you become a part of it. The slow heartbeat, the measured breath, the cool darkness, they all blend into a single, unified experience of peace. These masters of the slow rhythm show us that there is a quiet power in simply being, in existing without the need for constant action. And as we observe these beings of the slow pulse, we begin to see how their physical forms have been sculpted by this same philosophy of minimalism, becoming as ethereal and light as the water that holds them. Their bodies, like their lives, are built of the very essence of the deep, becoming almost indistinguishable from the shadows they inhabit. As this sense of stillness settles over you, you might begin to notice that the very bodies of these creatures seem to dissolve into the water itself. In the deep, the boundary between an animal and its environment is often a fragile, shimmering line. Many of the beings that drift through this eternal night have mastered a form of beauty that is as functional as it is ethereal: transparency. To be seen in the deep is to be in danger, and so many have chosen the path of becoming completely see-through. They are like ghosts made of liquid and light, drifting silently through a world where color has no meaning and shadows are the only currency. Imagine a creature like the glass octopus, a being so clear that you can see right through its body to the delicate structures of its optic nerves and digestive tract. Or consider the cystosoma, a crustacean that resembles a large, translucent shrimp, whose entire body is designed to let light pass through it without a single reflection. This is not merely a trick of the light, it is a profound biological adaptation. In a realm where there are no trees to hide behind and no caves to retreat into, the only way to remain hidden is to become part of the water itself. These animals are composed mostly of water and gelatinous tissues, making them nearly invisible to any eye that might be watching from the dark. This transparency serves a vital purpose in the game of survival. While the deep is dark, it is frequently pierced by the bioluminescent searchlights of predators. Many hunters in the twilight and midnight zones use beams of light like flashlights, scanning the water for the glint of a scale or the silhouette of a fin. But when that light hits a transparent creature, there is nothing for it to bounce off of. The light simply travels through the animal's body, continuing its journey into the vastness beyond. By being clear, these creatures effectively remove themselves from the visual world of their enemies. They become a void, a space where light does not linger, making them nearly invisible even when a predator is looking directly at them. There is a quiet, fragile beauty in this way of existing. It is a form of ultimate vulnerability that provides the ultimate protection. As you visualize these crystalline forms drifting in the current, you might feel a similar sense of lightness within yourself. Imagine shedding the heavy layers of the day, letting the worries and the weight of the world become as clear and inconsequential as the body of a glass octopus. You are becoming light, unburdened by the need to be seen or the need to act. You are simply present, a clear vessel for the quiet and the calm of the deep. This transparency reminds us that there is strength in being subtle. These animals do not need armor or sharp teeth to survive. They simply need to be still and clear. They move through the water with a grace that feels almost like a dream, their bodies catching only the faintest hint of a glow from a distant spark. They are the true spirits of the abyss, showing us that even in the most extreme environments, life can be delicate, intricate, and breathtakingly simple. In this clarity, there is a profound peace, a sense of being perfectly adapted to the silence. And as these transparent wonders continue their slow, invisible journey, we begin to realize that this stillness is not just a moment in time, but a way of life that has persisted for much longer than we can easily imagine. The deep does not just hold life, it preserves it in a state of timeless, crystalline grace. In this world of crystalline grace, time itself seems to slow down, stretching out until a single human lifetime feels like nothing more than a momentary flicker of light. Down here, in the cold and the dark, life has mastered the art of waiting. The frantic pace of the world above, with its seasons and its giggles of day and night, does not reach these depths. Instead, there is a different kind of rhythm, a slow geological heartbeat that measures existence in centuries rather than years. In the abyss, longevity is not a miracle, it is a way of being. Consider the Greenland shark, a silent wanderer of the deep, frigid waters of the North Atlantic. This creature is the very embodiment of the ocean's patience. It moves through the water at a pace that is almost meditative, its metabolism slowed to a crawl by the near freezing temperatures. Scientists have discovered that these sharks can live for more than 400 years, making them the longest-lived vertebrates on Earth. Imagine a shark gliding through the dark today that was born in the early 1600s. It has drifted through the silence while entire civilizations rose, flourished, and changed beyond recognition. It does not reach its own maturity until it is nearly 150 years old, a century and a half of simply growing, breathing, and being before it even begins the next chapter of its life. To the Greenland shark, time is not a resource to be spent, but a vast, quiet sea to be inhabited. Further down, anchored to the rocky peaks of underwater mountains, are the deep-sea corals, and like the vibrant, colorful reefs of the sunlit shallows, these corals grow in total darkness, far removed from the energy of the sun. They feed on the tiny particles of marine snow that drift down from above, and because their environment is so stable and their food so sparse, they grow with incredible slowness, sometimes only a few micrometers a year. Some of these colonies, like the black corals and certain species of glass sponges, have been found to be over 4,000 years old. They were already established, thriving in the cold silence when the Great Pyramids were being constructed in Egypt. They have stood their ground through every war, every discovery, and every revolution of the human race, untouched by the chaos of the surface. They are living chronicles of the deep, their skeletons holding the chemical signatures of the ocean's history, preserved in a state of eternal, motionless calm. As you listen to the steady rhythm of your own breath, try to imagine the weight of those centuries. It is not a heavy or burdensome weight, but rather a sense of profound stability. In the deep, there is no need to hurry. There is no deadline to meet, no destination that must be reached. Everything happens exactly when it is meant to happen in its own time. You can feel this ancient peace settling over you like a thick, soft blanket that has been woven over thousands of years. The silence of the abyss is a sanctuary where time loses its edge, and the long, slow history of the planet feels close enough to touch. We are part of this enduring story, a tiny part of a world that remembers everything and rushes for nothing. In this stillness, you are safe. You are held by the same patient forces that have watched over the Greenland shark and the ancient corals for thousands of years. The deep does not forget. It simply waits, preserving the essence of life in its most enduring form. And as we rest in this timeless space, we begin to realize that the ocean is more than just a place. It is a vast, liquid memory holding the secrets of our world's past and the quiet promise of its future. This memory is stored in every drop of water and every grain of sediment on the floor, a silent record of the planet's balance. This memory is more than just a record of time. It is a physical embrace that keeps our world alive. One of the most profound ways the deep ocean cares for the planet is by acting as a vast, silent vault for carbon. It is estimated that the ocean stores about 50 times more carbon than the atmosphere, holding it deep within its cold layers. When we speak of the ocean's memory, we are speaking of the way it captures the very breath of the world. Tiny organisms at the surface take in carbon dioxide, and when they eventually pass away, they drift downward as marine snow, carrying that carbon into the abyss. There, it is tucked away in the sediment, locked in a cold, dark sleep that can last for millennia. This process, often called the biological pump, is the Earth's natural way of regulating the climate, ensuring that the air remains breathable and the balance of life is maintained. It is a quiet, rhythmic labor, a slow exhale that spans the entire globe. Along with this carbon, the deep ocean also holds the world's warmth. It serves as a magnificent heat sink, absorbing nearly 90% of the excess heat trapped in our atmosphere. Think of the deep water as a cool, steadying presence, like a damp cloth on a fevered forehead. It draws the heat from the sun-drenched surface and pulls it down into the shadows, where the immense volume of the water can distribute it slowly and safely. This hidden warmth moves through the deep currents like a slow pulse, tempering the weather and the seasons, making the land we walk upon hospitable and kind. The deep ocean carries this burden so that we don't have to, acting as a thermal buffer that protects the delicate systems of life on the surface. Without this silent, massive absorption, the world above would be far less stable. The ocean gently absorbs the energy of the sun and the impact of the changing world, keeping the heartbeat of the planet steady and calm. As you lie there, take a slow, deep breath and feel a sense of profound gratitude for this protection. Imagine the ocean as a great blue guardian, vast and unblinking, watching over the world while it rests. It is a comforting thought to know that while we sleep, the deep is working, balancing the heat, storing the carbon, and maintaining the equilibrium of our home. You are tucked away in your own safe space, just as the ocean's secrets are tucked away in the dark. There is no need for you to worry about the complexities of the world tonight. The ocean is holding it all for you. It is a sturdy ancient system that has functioned for billions of years, and it will continue to do so long after we have drifted into our dreams. We are nearing the end of our descent, but we are not returning to the surface in the way we left it. Instead, we are settling into the realization that the surface and the deep are one, connected by a never-ending cycle of water and energy. As you prepare to let go of the last few threads of wakefulness, feel the stillness of the abyss entering your own mind. The darkness here isn't an empty space. It's a full space filled with memory, warmth, and the quiet promise of tomorrow. Let the rhythm of the tides guide your heartbeat into a slower, more peaceful pace. We are almost there, at the very heart of the stillness, where the journey ends and the rest begins. This unity is more than just a feeling. It is a physical reality that binds the entire world together. Every single drop of water in the vastness of the ocean eventually finds its way here, circulating through the deep in a journey that transcends human time. Scientists call this the global conveyor belt, a slow and majestic movement of water that carries life, heat, and nutrients to every corner of the globe. A single molecule of water might spend 1,000 years completing its circuit, sinking in the icy currents of the poles, traveling for centuries across the silent abyssal plains, and finally rising once more to meet the sun in a distant part of the world. It is a process of infinite patience. The water that is now resting in the deepest trench will one day become the mist of a morning cloud, or the spray of a crashing wave on a tropical shore. This constant, slow-motion mixing ensures that the ocean remains a single, breathing entity, a closed loop of renewal that has been turning for billions of years. You too are part of this rhythm. As you breathe in and out, you are mirroring the slow, steady pulse of the planet's water, moving in harmony with a cycle that knows no rush and feels no urgency. As we linger here in the quietest depths, it is humbling to realize that the deep ocean is the largest habitat for life on our planet. It is the vastest living space in the known universe, making up over 95% of the Earth's biosphere. While we are accustomed to the life we see on land, the trees, the birds, and the animals of the sunlit world, they represent only a small fraction of the Earth's story. The true weight of life on Earth resides here, in the shadows and the silence. It is a world of endless variety and resilient beauty, a place where life doesn't just survive, but flourishes in ways we are only beginning to understand. The abyss is not a desert. It is a sanctuary. It is a home that is always quiet, always cool, and always steady. It is the ultimate cradle, holding the secrets of the past and the possibilities of the future in its cold, dark embrace. Now, let the weight of these wonders settle into your mind like the softest layer of marine snow. The journey through the blue is over, and the water around you is perfectly still. There are no more distances to travel, no more depths to explore. You have reached the very bottom of the world, where the silence is absolute and the peace is unbreakable. The darkness here is not an absence, but a presence, a soft velvet texture that holds you close and keeps the world away. Feel the heavy, comforting blanket of the deep water pressing gently against you, grounding you, and letting you know that you are safe. The ocean is vast, and you are tucked away in its most peaceful corner. The currents have slowed to a whisper. The bioluminescent lights have faded into a soft, steady glow that mimics the stars of a distant galaxy. Your eyes are heavy, and your body feels as light as a Dumbo octopus drifting on a gentle thermal. There is nothing left to do but rest. The ocean will continue its work, the water will circulate, the carbon will be stored, and the giants will glide through the dark, all while you are wrapped in the quiet luxury of sleep. I wish you peaceful dreams tonight, filled with the soft light of the deep and the rhythmic pulse of the tides. May your rest be as deep as the Mariana Trench and as steady as the ancient glass sponges. The world is quiet now. The journey is complete. Sleep well, tucked away in the heart of the blue. Good night, and may the stillness of the abyss stay with you until the morning light returns.